So now that we've recruited a brand new staff member, what we need to do is to create a file structure so that we can store all of their employment information. And what we're going to look at in the white label Trello board, we're coming across here to number 2, which is the HR section. I'll come all the way down to the new file staff checklist, a new employee checklist. So I'm going to click open to that one. And if you'll see inside of here, I've already got the file structure. So there's 20 different folders. And if we go across to the numbers 18.2, and I'll show you this in a second, it already cross-links. But if you go across to that section in the agency setup, it'll show you what the folders are that we need to create. And there's also a template sitting inside of the Google Drive. So what you need to do is to create a structure around this. So the first thing, we sort of start from the beginning and then work all the way through to the exit. And it gives you an opportunity, it's almost like a self-audit, but at the same time, it gives you an opportunity to save all the documentation that you have around that employee from when they first make the application to the interview process, to your employment process, so the contract letter of offer and things, and then you go to bringing the staff member on board, so policies, procedures, acknowledgements, those sorts of things, and then we've got the induction. So we've got the documents that are required for business licensing if they're an agent. So we've got eligibility to perform as an agent and those sorts of things that the agency needs to provide to the employee. And there is also a section inside of here, and you'll see in there eligibility to act. The employee would provide that through to the agency, and the authority to perform duties is provided by the agency through to the employee. These are all sitting inside the Trello boards, but and also there's a place in there for your police check, your agent's rep. Number 15, this is probably really important for you to have a look at, is that it's the ongoing onboarding of the employees. So there's, day 1, what do we do? Day 7, day 14, 21, 30. Then we go all the way out to, sort of 60, 90, 120 days, 18 months. What do we look at? 12 months, 18 months. How do we onboard the staff correctly? Agencies that do this really well will retain their staff a lot longer. We've got the employee policies inside of there. Any annual leave requests go inside, or it will be stored in there. And these are the hard copy documents that the employee would give you, that would basically that you've already approved, and then you would sit them and you give a copy back to them. But you've got a copy of this on your records, particularly the ones that have been declined. So you'd want those saved there as well. All of your performance reviews and 90-day action plans would sit inside of there. Any training that you've done with the employee, specific training for them, just keep a log of that sort of stuff, and any also if there was any particular issues around performance and you want to record that, store that inside of there, and then the termination of the employee, so when the employee leaves. So if we come through the checklist, so what we've got there, so 18.2, that'll bring you straight into this category here, which is the actual file structure of setting up, and it explains exactly what documents you require, and the 20 categories that we've already talked about in there. Documents the employee needs to give, documents that you need to receive. So the whole process is sitting there for you. This is designed really for directors, HR, team leaders, this particular point. So I'm just going to go to there, 2.15. And the document that I want to show you now is the employee file checklist. So this would be, so we've created the file structure, and now we have a checklist inside of here. It's a 3-page document, currently branded as best practice. Of course, we can brand it individually for each office. Any documents with original signatures to be saved in the employee file. So we're looking at, my suggestion is to also create if you've got a physical file, this is a physical document. If not, then we can create this into an editable PDF and just keep it updated. The documents should be scanned and stored in the employee's electronic file. Copies of the documents should be made available to the employee for their own records. That's really, really important. It's part of the obligations of an employer to make sure some of this information is available to them. Their name, contract date, position, commencement date, pretty straightforward. If you've got a person that starts out, say for example on reception, then goes into leasing, I would create a new one of these documents, but just backfill some of the information because it'll be relevant. Some of the information would be sitting inside of there because it really is a new employment term. So I wouldn't discard this, but I'd certainly create a new one. Business cards, you may not need those anymore, but here we've got the induction dates. When an employee starts, my strong recommendation is that already there should be, if you're using Outlook or a Google electronic systems, there should be, the desk should be set up. The diary should be set up. The holidays should already be, any public holidays should be already entered into their diary. And so it links back through to the agency. There should already be viewing from other team members. So department managers should be able to see through all of the Outlook files, holiday calendars and those sorts of things. Calendars should all be linked and shared, particularly with reception. So reception should be able to see all the calendars as well. But the 1 day induction should already be allocated into the diary. The 7-day induction should already be allocated into the diary. The 14-day, the 30, 60, 90, 6 months, 12 months, and then you've got other appointments after that would be allocated in there. I'll go through those in a second. But what that shows is that shows that you're organised. It shows that you're planned. It actually shows that you're really prepared for the employee to come in. But what it does set is from the get-go, it sets a level of expectation that all the property management meetings, all the sales meetings, all the team leading meetings, all your performance reviews, your 90-day meetings, all of those must be sitting inside of the diary. If you have planning days at the start of the year, they need to be in there. If you break for Christmas, that needs to be in there as well, so that the employee is getting a diary, which is so that they feel really, really quickly that they're up to date with everybody else. The objective of an onboarding program is quite simply to be able to get the employee, the new employee, as quickly as possible to a level not dissimilar to the one that they're replacing. And of course, if they're a brand new role, then it's not replacing somebody else. But you want to get them as quickly as possible to being effective. You want them to be organised. You want them to know where files need to be sorted, saved, and most certainly you want to be able to set up and set the precedent from this. So day one. Really, really important, and there's a whole induction program to go through of what you do on day 1, what you do on day 7, what you do on day 14. Okay, so security, office key number, have you given them one? Yes, no. Alarm codes, yes, no. Computer workstations, profile setup. And what I'm doing here is I'm getting a signature. Yes, I'm signing this off, and I've done it. So whoever the manager was, and again, if this sits inside, if it's a physical copy, sits inside of the employee's physical file, then what happens is over time, because this might be, if an employee is with you for 5 years, this document will be sitting in the file for 5 years. There may be different HR people along the way. There may be different people that are involved in this, but I can look back when an employee is leaving after 5 years, I can look back at this document and say, hey, we gave you a key and we also gave your alarm code as X. Can we get those keys back and so forth? And it's that process that you're trying to look for. Again, onboarding makes you look very, very organized. It's a structure that you're looking for. So computer workstations, email accounts, these all need to be set up. Property management trust software, or if it's a sales role, the database, all that needs to be set up there. CRM database, and all of the profiles. So you might have, for example, and you might have to add these in separately, had just another page. You might have Inspection Express, Inspect Real Estate, other programs that need to be added in through to there. You would just create those as another addendum. But you've got the general gist of the information that needs to be set up in through to there, what the username is and what the password is. Prepare these, so give them to the employee. And what that does also is it sets sets the tone that the employee can't just go off and create their own. And if they are going off and creating their own, then they need to inform you first. So, because you don't want to be in a situation where if an employee leaves or is ill or is away, that no one can access their programs. Okay, and now we've got process. So the actual documents. So did we get it? Yes, no. Has it been completed? So manager sign off and date. Employee application form. Yes, no. Position description. Did we give them that? Yes. Interview questionnaire. So many agencies don't use the interview questionnaires. We've got them sitting inside the Trello board. Use them for each of the staff. Save them, and then save them into the directory. Reference check. Letter of offer. Contracts, including KPIs or incentives, or both the position description, the contract, the terms, payroll information. So your super forms, your tax file number information, has all that been done. Staff emergency contacts, really critical. Particularly, make sure you've got their if they've got private health insurance, particularly for ambulance cover, blood type. Allergies, really important. If there's an allergy, if they're actually, or if they're diabetic, those sorts of things, they're really important, because in the event that a person has an accident during working hours, the emergency services will come to you. You need to be able to pull this up on your phone. You need to be able to get access to this really quickly. So sometimes what I would suggest, depending on your level of security and who has access to your phone, you might want the directors to have maybe a couple of little bullet points of things inside of the contact inside their phone, and nothing that would be breaching anyone's privacy. But if there was a blood type, a particular blood type, if there was if they had ambulance, or if there was an allergy, if they were allergic to penicillin, you would actually have that sitting inside the notes inside your Outlook contact for that new employee. So that if you were out on the road and say an emergency service called you because one of the staff have had an accident, you can sit there and they're going to ask you straight away, who's the next of kin? Put that information sitting in there. It's just about being time and efficient and saving time. So put that information sitting in there, and it'll help you out. Superannuation form, Fair Work, BLA documents. That all needs to sit inside of here. Declaration of eligibility, yes, no. Valid police check, agents rep. If they're a member of any associations, if they're a member of the REIV, yes, no. Employment docs forwarded to the BLA, critical. I'll tell you what I'm talking about there. So when you load your documents onto the Business Licensing Authority, or your Fair Work, or Fair Trading, Fair Trading in your state, when you're loading those on, my suggestion is to, once you've loaded it and submitted it, print a copy as a PDF and print a copy here, because sometimes you've done that and you won't know that if it hasn't been updated, or if there was an error, or if there was an issue, and it's not until later on when someone does an audit of your BLA file that you would look back through and see, oh, hang on, that person was never registered to the agency. That could be a massive issue, particularly if they're signing contracts or management authorities without being linked to your license. And it can be a simple technical issue on the BLA website. So print a copy of that. At least you've got a copy. Codes of conduct, any mobile phone policies, employment declarations, those sorts of things. Any other employment policies that you would have inside of them. Now, when the employee leaves, their resignation, their termination letter, did you have it? Yes, no. Their exit interview and responsibilities, really important. And then again, same as you've done here with the BLA, the removal. Make a note of that. Yes, no. And then you can come back and say, did we get the keys done? And this gives you a real structure around the file. Now what we've got here is we've got our notes. So what were the notes on before the person joined? So they've actually, have you sent out any information on the company beforehand? Maybe a company profile, vision, goals. You might have a handbook, those sorts of things. Have you sent that out beforehand? Yes, no. The new employee induction. Did you do it? Who did it? What day was it done? And some general feedback notes. Mentor check-in, performance review, day 30, day 60, performance review. Now, these ones here are pretty straightforward, these 60, 90 days. This one, the first 6 months, that's the bigger one, which we've got another a full-blown document to go through there. And that's the, so the 90-day check-in, really about goals, aspirations, things that they're working on. have a look at the documents for that one, 90-day action plan, and then the 6-month performance review. So that's the one sitting inside of here. So my suggestions for performance reviews is that they should be done around April and October. The reasons why I suggest that is because April leads you into a good time just before financial year end. So if you've got any towards the end of the financial year, you've got incentives or commissions that need to be met, it's a good opportunity. It gives you a lead in time. So you've got May, June to be able to actually wrap up the financial year quite well. But what it does do is it leads us back into the October. The reasons why we want to do October, you don't want to be doing performance reviews in the middle of the year. Makes it very, very tough, because then if you're doing 6 months in July, then you're doing the next 6 months in December. You don't want to be doing performance reviews into December, because often a lot of people make critical decisions about their employment around December, Christmas, they'll wrap up. So October tends to be a really good month. We're not into Christmas just yet, but at the same time, we're close enough to the end of the year, so we can start to have a look at that 6-month gap. So suggestion is April and October, which means that you would then work your 90 days around that as well. And so you've got 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. I would have, when the employee starts, I would have their first 2 performance reviews in the diary, and we go through that in the induction program as well. Need to have those already set in the diary, because again, it sets expectation of exactly what we're looking at. I often speak with agents who have been employed at different offices for a year, 2 years, 3, some 5, 6, 8 years, never had performance reviews. The only time they ever really have discussions with their managers is when something's going wrong. And that's not a great way to run a business. Sit down, go through the performance review process. Hopefully this little check-in has helped, and as I said, the link in through to how to go and create the folder. Thanks for that. Bye for now.